oh my gosh, you go there? Why?
That's so uncomfortably black. All right, guys. Welcome into the very first episode of Uncomfortably Black, featuring my co-host, Leeshellmybell.
Hey guys, I'm back.
She's back and we're uncomfortably black. So if you haven't already tuned in to my previous episode where I go over my origin story, Uncomfortably Black, Valerie with a V, go ahead and circle back and take a quick listen. That was a very heavy ass episode. It was very emotionally taxing, you know?
I feel like it was. I feel like I learned a lot from listening to the episode that I didn't know. Even though I know you, I didn't know that I was probably one of your first African-American friends.
Oh, you were my first African-American, best friend.
Yeah. So,
just to be clear, I've had other Black friends, but I consider a core friend someone like my mom knows you're a mom. I could go to your house. You could go to my house kind of vibe. So you're my first Black best friend.
And I would say I also learned the positive effect I've had of kind of changing your mindset towards African American people.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I did that because
the catalyst.
I didn't know that because I was just literally being myself and meeting you at 14. I didn't know that you had this preconceived notion before of how African American people were until you met me. I didn't, I feel like we were just kind of trying to navigate life together.
Yeah, facts. So. It's true. And I think it's a story that a lot of people, you hear about the token Black friend, which I guess you could quote unquote, I was the token Black friend in many scenarios in life. But it's also nobody ever goes into the token Black friend backstory.
That's
why
true.
are they the token? Because at the end of the day, it's in our nature to want to find our tribe. But it's we don't discuss how the tribe isn't always receptive to the loner. Like the lone wolf. Sometimes you're not accepted in. So I'm we got to talk about that because that was kind of my uncomfortable, because I was uncomfortable in being Black because one, I didn't know what being Black was outside of the lens of what quote unquote society says Black is. Because even that, we're going to talk about, we're going to get into the tea on this segment. Even with that, being Black is so many things. You know what I'm saying?
I always say we're not a monolith.
At all.
I've always said that.
Yeah.
And I say too, probably you being Caribbean has a different aspect on it as well of seeing what they shown you African American people are,
right,
versus how we really are when you meet somebody who's literally, I quote unquote am a pro-Black person.
Yes, sir.
So seeing it is kind of oh, okay, maybe what I
you're
thought.
Not that bad.
Yeah, you're not that
I got
bad.
that all my life. My mom likes you. You're not like the other Black people. And we'll talk about these microaggressions later.
I would always get, your name's not funny. You don't have a funny name.
Yeah. God. Alrighty, man. Well, now, Leeshell, I already promised the people that you would go into your backstory of Uncomfortably Black. So tell me, Leeshellmybell, what makes you uncomfortably Black?
Okay, so I guess I have to go back to my backstory of me. I am African American. I grew up in a 2-parent household in Green Acres, if you guys know, in West Palm. It's a predominantly mixed area. Both my parents are college educated and are college graduates of an HBCU. I also went to an HBCU as well, one of the best HBCUs in the country, Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University.
I was waiting for it.
I had to put the plug. I had to put the plug in because y'all know if you are a rattler, it's like we're in a cult. I'm sorry. It's one of the best cults of Orange and Green. So
your colors are fire too, by the way.
So I went to an HBCU, but honestly, that being in an HBCU was the first time I ever went to a Black school, and I'll get to that later on. So for me, growing up, like I said, I grew up in a 2-parent household. With my parents, it was a little bit different. My dad grew up in the area that Valerie discussed before, which is the Pahokee Belglade area of West Palm Beach. It's very rural out there. It's
Very
country. I would say it's the hood. It's the western part of Florida. You know, Muck City. That's
Muck City.
But for that's how my dad grew up. And then my mom is not even from Florida. My mom's from South Carolina. She grew up in the country. My parents had their whole love story. They met in college. Boom, they had me.
So cute.
So segueing to that, I grew up in Green Acres, which is basically a very diverse area. It was mostly built of Hispanics, black people who are African American, as well as Caribbean, Middle Eastern, and we did have Caucasian people as well. Can I say white people?
You can say white people.
Okay, white people as well. So for me growing up, my dad always jokes. He says I always had the United Nations of friends because I
dream.
I always did. I always had
magic school bus friends.
Yeah, I had magic school bus friends. Aww. So one of my first best friends was Trinidadian, and so I had Trini friends. I had Middle Eastern friends. I had white friends. Every black friends. It was just like a melting pot of growing up there. So I grew up in Green Acres up until the age of 14. So, you know, your teenage years, your elementary school years, or your primary years, that's when you're growing up with your friends and you're learning things, you're learning who you are, you're learning what you like. And like I said before, most of my friends were either black or Spanish.
Right.
I had some white friends too and some Middle Eastern friends, but for the most part, they were mostly black and Spanish. So I grew up like that, very down-to-earth people. So then when at the age of 14, I ended up moving to Wellington. And Wellington is a very equestrian area.
Creme de la creme.
Yes. Very rich, I would say. So very white. So I grew up, I moved there. So I went to school in Green Acres from K to 7th grade. And then my last year of middle school, which is 8th grade, I moved to Wellington and went to Polo Park, which was a ultimate culture shock for me.
Woof.
As a person that's used to being around mixed people, mixed environments, different cultures, a melting pot, and to be dropped into a society of where it is just pretty much just white.
Yeah. And to be clear, Polo Park is on the side of Wellington where it's literally where the equestrian capital side is. So anyone who lived on that side were definitely the creme de la creme, rich. You didn't come across too many middle class families there.
Yeah.
So ideally that was like prime time.
Yeah.
Upscale snooty duty.
And let me just say, I grew up middle class. I will say my parents were very hardworking people. So the fact that we got to move to Wellington and get a house, that was like a big accomplishment.
Of course.
For us. So
absolutely. I
applauded my parents for that, but I still hated the decision that I had to move to Wellington because I left all of my friends that I knew. So I just remember moving to Wellington at first. It was just, like I said, it was a culture shock because the children that I met or came across, some of them were cool. I could say I had some, I can't name names, but I've met some people that were, just were very inviting and things like that. But there were some that just wasn't. So for me, being a pro-Black person and growing up, like I said before, my parents were both college educated. They both went to HBCU. So it's like a lot of things, like when it came down to Black culture, it was a lot of things that I knew already. Like I remember having books about Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, all of those things. Like when you say I'm Black, I knew I was a Black person.
With a capital B.
With a capital B. If you look at my name spelled out, I'm Black. I knew I was Black. I wasn't.
What was that like transitioning at Polo Park? Like, did you have any incidents?
I feel like transitioning to Polo, it was very like I said, it was hard. I remember the first day I ate lunch by myself because I used to cheer. That was a backstory that I used to cheer back at Okehilly for years. I was a cheerleader for probably like 5 or 6 years of my life. And I ended up seeing one of the girls that I used to cheer with. Yeah. She was white. I'm just going to put it out there. And I guess because she was with her white friends at the time, she just completely ignored me. Like I came up to her and I was like, hey, what's up? Like, because I saw her, like literally we had cheer practice probably a couple months before that. Yeah. And I saw her and I was like, hey, what's up? Like, how are you? Are you going to try out for the team? She just completely ignored me. She acted like she didn't know me because she was, quote unquote, with her
persona non grata.
Yeah, with her Wellington friends at Polo. And I was like, oh, okay, it's cool. When we were at Okahili, but now that we're at Polo, it's different.
So she was the minority there.
I guess so. And then that's when I started to realize, like, Leeshell, you are in a different place than what you are used to.
Twilight Zone.
It was like being in the Twilight Zone of meeting kids. Like I said, I'm used to children who are proud of what they are. Like, people like, are you Puerto Rican? Everybody's like, I'm Boricua. Like, I'm Jamaican. I'm Grenadian. I'm this. I'm that. And moving to Wellington, it was like, oh yeah, I am that. It was kind of like a not as prideful as I'm used to, and kind of like some people were not as down to earth or as friendly as I was used to at Okahili.
Yeah.
Or living, like I said, living in a diverse environment. So for me, going from that, like I said, it was definitely a big culture shock for that. Even coming down to like cheering for me, I made the team, and I remember one distinct moment where I knew that, once again, I am in a different environment right now. It was a time where we were about to do a pep rally or something, and they wanted our hair to be a certain type of way. And you guys all know that as Black women, our hair is our crown.
Right. Very sacred.
And very sacred. I didn't wear weave at the time because my mom did not allow that. She felt like, I'm 14 wearing weave. You were kind of grown.
Yeah.
So I remember they were saying, like, they want your hair in ringlet curls. That's how they wanted their hair, because they wanted to look competition style. And that's, at that time, competition style cheerleading, that's how they looked. They wore makeup. They had
the high ponytail.
They had the high ponytail. They had the curly hair. And at that time, my hair couldn't go like that unless I permed my hair and had it curled or had it blown out. And I remember saying, one of the girls was like, well, her hair can't go like that. And I'm just sitting there like, wow, like, once again, I feel different.
Yeah.
Because at my old cheerleading team, it didn't matter what our hair looked like.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if it could go in a ponytail or if it could do this or twist or do whatever. It didn't matter. All it mattered is, can you get up here and do this routine? Right. Can you get up here and throw this girl up and catch her?
Yeah.
And can you hit the splits?
There you go.
That's what
hit the splits, y'all.
And I'm just like, I remember going home and telling my parents what happened, and they were upset.
As they should be.
They were upset. They're just like, I'm not understanding. What does this have to do with your ability to cheer?
Right.
And it didn't. And we'll talk about this more when we go into the segment, but it's other instances like that I've had from going up from a mixed environment to a predominantly white environment where...
And you never had this issue with your other coach?
No, I never had. My other coach was white too, and I've never had that issue with her. Like I said before, it was more so, can you do the routine to the T? Can you execute what I'm asking you to do?
Lack of knowledge, true.
Yeah, just not having to do with the physical.
What was your experiences in high school, though?
In high school, I felt like I went through like an ugly duckling stage in high school. And I felt, even though we did go to Wellington, which is a PWI, I don't know if you guys know what that means, but a PWI is a predominantly white institution. Mm-hmm. So...
Clarification.
Yeah, I had to get clarification. So with Wellington, I still gravitated towards Black people. I
think it's a natural thing.
It's just a natural thing. Like certain Black people, I will say that, because you did have your biases. You did have your Black people who, like, were cool, who knew they were Black. Most of our friends were Caribbean. And then you have some of the black people who were like very high acidity, very
assimilating to white culture,
who just
deflecting from their own.
Yeah,
it's really a defense mechanism, to be honest, too.
Probably,
because I feel like because a lot of those kids, I grew up since kindergarten there, so it's like they low key learned to assimilate naturally because they had no other representation. Yeah,
so for me, sometimes I felt like I was a little too Black. A little bit. on certain things. Like I said,
we need Jacoby on this. Jacoby, I know you listening, girl. But
we need you.
But the day Jacoby comes on this podcast, she is the ultimate Black pride.
She was woke before woke was a thing.
Right. Like, they just need a picture of her face.
Yeah. So being in Wellington, like I said, I've gravitated more towards the Black people. And then I met Valerie first, I will say, in when we were 14. So in high school, it wasn't so, I would say it was still a thing of just being like, okay, I know I'm Black and trying to assimilate in this world. Mm-hmm. But I felt like in high school, it was, some of it was less, not as harsh. It was still microaggressions.
Right.
It was still little things, especially when we go down to when we start talking about when we were actually in a step team and when we met our mentor. It was a lot of microaggressions that happened with that, with certain people and certain topics. But for high school, I can say that you did see things because we would have, I remember there was a hallway with all the
redneck bench.
The redneck bench. And I had never experienced rednecks before.
Thank you
in
for
my
mentioning
life.
that. I had a few people just comment back on my episode. Mm-hmm. And one of them mentioned the redneck bench. I forgot all about it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there was this bench in high school before a secondary high school opened up in the area. Like I mentioned, Loxahatchee was the country folk and all the little rednecks used to be over there. And they had a bench right outside the gym. And they would throw ketchup packets at Black people and Spanish people, I guess, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, anybody of color, they would just sit there. They would chew tobacco, try to spit at them. And this is happening at Wellington High School.
Central was having the same racial issues as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. South Florida.
At that time, it was a little racial divide, especially that was going on in school.
Yeah.
In our particular areas, like out west. I never experienced that. They would spit on people and just be nasty and just say things. I'm like, why? I never understood it. And then you had, like you said, the elitists or the preppies.
The preppies. Pop your collar era.
Pop your collar, Hollister, Abercrombie and Fitch. But they were rich. We were going to school with people who had airplanes in the back of their houses.
Yeah, for sure.
That's how rich some of these people were. And I had some Black friends who lived out there too.
Right.
So that was just interesting, like going there, like our partying life there was it was just a whole bunch of different things. Even dating, that's a whole nother topic.
Right.
I don't even want to get into that. But I will remember one distinct moment in high school is when it was coming down to senior year and everybody was picking out like what school they wanted to go to. And I wanted to go to FAM. Mm-hmm. Well, I had two schools. I either wanted to go to the University of South Florida or I wanted to go to FAM. So I remember this happened like outside of school, and I was talking to one of these guys that we knew, like an associate. He had went to another school, so we were just talking. Everybody was talking about schools. Everybody was throwing out what school they were going to. Everybody was saying, "Oh, I'm going to go to UCF. I want to go to FIU," and I'm like, "Well, I want to go to FAM." And I remember him saying, "Why would you want to go to FAMU? It's uncomfortably Black." Mm. And this was another time that I noticed, Leeshell, you are somewhere else. Because in my mind, like I said, my parents were college educated from an HBCU. I was taught that the HBCU was that was the elite. Like it's a regular college just like anybody else. So why would you say that something is uncomfortably Black?
And he was a person of color?
And he was a person of color at that. Okay.
Yeah.
At that point, he was a person of color. So it made me think like, wow, even Black people.
It be your own people. It really be your own people.
It really be your own people some days. And I guess you could say that's where the name Uncomfortably Black spawned from, because I had that moment with somebody who just told me, why would I want to go to a historically Black college? Because it was uncomfortably Black.
Yeah. And you know, it's crazy when it comes to like FAMU, because our mentor took us on tours to FAMU. Mm-hmm. And for me, especially given the time where I was at, because although we had been friends, I didn't really completely heal from my trauma towards Black people until like our early 20s. So for me, I would have been like, FAMU is Uncomfortably Black for me, Valerie, Bartlome. That's me. Y'all got my whole government. Especially because whenever I was around a whole bunch of Black people, I would always get made fun of. I'd always get picked on. It's my dialect. So for the fact that it was too, like, it wasn't diverse enough for me. Like, even now, if I'm being completely honest, like, I would rather live somewhere like New York where I can see everybody. I mean, I stay in Brooklyn. The B in Brooklyn is for Black. I'm comfortable with my people now.
Yeah.
But like, to be that young in that type of school, it would have been uncomfortable for me because I was still assimilating into Black culture. But then also the other choice was FSU, which is Florida State. That's where all the white people go. And that's like microaggression capital there too.
Yeah, it was a lot of microaggression.
So it's like
that's another topic.
So it's like the best. Like I would have ended up going to FAMU because at least I could be with my people. Like I don't want to be outnumbered and attacked because after the microaggression, there's aggression.
And even for me, FAM, like I said before, FAM going to a historically Black college. First of all, FAM was like the first all Black school I ever went to in my life. I had never went to an all Black school before.
Right. True.
So that was new to me as well. But just what it meant and what it stood for, that was the only place that I felt like personally that I felt like was home for me. And that's why I chose to go to an HBCU, because it was people like me who understood what I was going through, knew how it was to be Black and how to live in a double conscious world.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it at first. At first, I'm like, you go to HBCU, you think like, oh, they're just going to teach you how to be Black. Like, not how to be Black, but they're just going to
teach you about
remind you that you're Black, you're Black, you're Black, you're Black.
You also went to FAMU during a fucking epic era of Obama being president. Like,
I did.
Y'all had to be around in 08.
Yeah.
Because being Black in 08 was fire. Black excellence, that's when the whole trend just really went out there. And even more people enrolled in college.
Yeah, more people did. But I think a lot of times, too, with me going to FAM, a lot of times I learned that it was so much generational things that had happened at FAMU. You had people whose grandparents had went to FAMU,
right,
who have built FAMU. It was a lot of things, and people who have done great things. I can't name a few right now, but it was a lot of people who went to FAMU that has done great things. So when I've heard somebody say that it's uncomfortably Black to go to an HBCU, I felt like that was a level of ignorance. Because why HBCUs were instituted was because we could not go to predominantly white institutions.
We sure enough cannot.
So when people make comments about that, I think it's from, like I said, ignorance, because they don't understand the history behind why certain things were instituted and why they are the way that they are.
And also a lack of self-love, too. And I can say that as someone who literally just said going to FAMU would be uncomfortably Black for me, because at the time, I lacked self-love for my Blackness because of my initial, walk into it.
Yeah.
So I could understand being apprehensive, like if you were someone like me who's had negative experiences, but just not to go just because there's too many Black people and you feel like you're getting less value because there's so many Black people. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, that's the connotation that it has, but that, once again, used to piss me off and annoy me, because I feel like going to HBCU, I had to do double work than what the PWIs who had the same major as me had.
Oh, I believe it.
So some people, like, I went to school, I studied public relations, that was my major, but I had friends who went to USF and all they had to do was write. And I had to take an advertising class. I had to take a graphic design class. I had to take a photography class. Right. Not only had to do a news writing and reporting class. So I was well-rounded. And then when it came down to graduating, I had to do a capstone presentation just to sit to graduate, as well as being published in multiple publications 10 times to graduate.
Okay, resume, let them know. So, that uncomfortably Black education for that uncomfortably Black job.
So for people, for me, I learned a lot of lessons going to an HBCU that I was basically beyond the books.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it then, but I understand it now.
Yeah.
Why I had to be that much better, why I had to be that much smarter, why I had to have my shit together, because I know we live in a world and we're taught not to see color. I was taught not to see color, but sometimes when you're in certain corporate settings, color does exist.
It does. And this is why we wanted to start this segment called Uncomfortably Black, about both of our Uncomfortably Black experiences. And we really want to talk about Uncomfortably Black topics, scenarios, issues. And that doesn't necessarily mean we're discussing our inner trauma of all the microaggressions we've received in our life. This is not what this is here for. However, you will receive the tea. We want to talk about these Uncomfortably Black topics, especially within our own community too, that we just are not shedding the light on that we need to do. We're talking colorism, internalized racism, classism, homophobia, you name it. Uncomfortably Black, it's here to stay, and I cannot wait to parlay.
Of course.
Alrighty. So on this very first episode, what we want to do is pick a topic, which I will allow you to pick since you're in person.
Wow.
Because we know these are about to be video topics moving forward, because Leeshell does not want to move to New York, although like literally every single person has said you should just move to New York.
Everybody's trying to get me to move to New York.
Why not?
I don't know yet. Just a transient. It's really the transient. I'm in Houston, you know.
Holla at me.
Holla at you. I have question 14.
We're using topic 14. So on today's episode of Uncomfortably Black, we're discussing family dynamics and generalized patterns, unhealthy relationships and cycles. Woof.
Dang.
That's heavy. The first thing that comes into mind. So again, my background, I'm Haitian American, and Leeshell is?
I am African American.
Yes. So when it comes to family dynamics and generational patterns, for me, what sticks out being Haitian is how our Haitian mothers and fathers have different expectations. For me as a daughter versus versus my brothers who are boys. That family dynamic, I always feel like Black moms, and even millennial mom, we talked about this, Black moms are so tough on us.
Yeah.
Just trying to, it's like they teach us to survive and teach us to like how to take care of a family, how to clean. But nowadays, girls, we're not just at home having babies and taking care of the kids and our men. We're out here busting our ass at corporate America too, and coming home, taking care of our babies and our men in our house. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like when it comes to that certain age of where children start to transition from childhood into puberty, into womanhood, like it just flips a switch, and it's like they're so tough and hard. And I feel like expectations for us are way higher. Yeah. And then also, from that being said, you have a generation of young men who are used to being coddled and babied by their moms. So when they're out here looking for partners and women, they expect to be coddled, you know? And this is my opinion, because not every man is like this. But I see it in a harsh scenario, like where these men are like coddled and always taken care of. Because also these young boys are learning, oh, that's how women are supposed to be like. Oh, like you know what I'm saying? So when they're looking for their partner, they're expecting that too. And then also, say if they're looking for that in a partner, but you're talking to a woman, a daughter who was raised by a single mom who taught her to be independent, and like, you know, and she's like hyper fixated on her independence. Like, prime example, I can only use myself. My mother was a widow. I never saw her in a relation. My mom decided after having myself not to remarry, especially because she didn't want another man in the household. And, you know, I'm her only daughter. You know, safety first. You never know. So she made that choice. So I grew up never seeing her intertwine with like another male, like a lover. The only male I ever see her talk to is her brothers, my uncles, or my brothers, you know what I'm saying, her children. So it's like, even me as a woman, my mom was teaching me how to clean, cook, all that jazz. But it's like when it came to interpersonal relationships, I only learned, because even now I have like a mommy energy sometimes when it comes to my lovers. Like if I nag, I'm like, ugh, I'm being like my mom. Like I have, you know what I'm saying? Even my brothers, I nag my brothers too, because it's like, that's what I knew. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, if you have a guy who's trying to date a girl like me and who's only seen their mom like deal with her brothers or other people, not a lover, sometimes women don't know how to treat men in a loving way where they're not being bossy or mommy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then sometimes these men want mommy, but then they also want their hyper independence. You know what I'm saying? What do you feel about that?
I can understand that. I feel like family dynamics, especially in the Black community, are, you know, it's a thing. So for moms, for instance, the mom or the matriarch, depending on if there is a father in the household, they are the ones who kind of guide everything or show the role of like, this is how a wife should be. This is how you should carry yourself as a woman when you're out in the world. I remember with my mom, particularly, my mom did not let me go out the house any type of way.
Yep.
That was her thing. When you left the house accordingly. You were always dressed. I would never see you. You would never catch me in a bonnet outside of my house, period. I would never wear pajamas outside of my house like that. My mom was very strict on certain things like that. And I think it was just from her, just from her and her upbringing as well, that like when you left the house, your appearance matters. Like, you're not going to leave the house and look unkept because people will, people will judge you. People will think that, you're not being taken care of at home.
Yeah.
And that's not what's happening. So I feel like that even for a man's standpoint, because today my parents are still married. So for me, I saw the dynamic of what I saw a Black man to be, which would be for me, what was seeing my dad was like a provider. He was in the household. He made sure, things got done. Just like him and my mom, they both did that. But I remember distinctly seeing him as like that provider figure. Now, talking to my other friends who were in single parent households, I remember speaking to one of my friends and he was like, well, y'all girls don't know how to change a tire. My mom knows how to change a tire. My mom knows how to do this and this and this. And I had to tell him, you know why your mom had to know how to do this, this, and this? Because she had to.
Right.
When my mom had a flat tire, my mom called my dad, and my dad came and did it.
Okay.
Or certain things like that. When it came down to the cars, my dad stepped in, and whatever it was with that, that man, I wouldn't say man roles or I hate those gender roles type of things. But for me in the family dynamic, when I saw that, I did see, and even in my family too, I would say that I've seen the men step up. Now, also, I have seen my grandmother as well. She is a big matriarch in my family. My grandma raised 8 kids by herself.
Yes, Big Lee.
Yeah, so in that generation, it was definitely hard. So I've seen her be that matriarch, basically be the head honcho pretty much.
Yeah.
And some, like you said, with the boys, I feel like, they do coddle the boys. I don't know if that's a Black mom thing or not, but or a mom. I think it's just a mom thing.
It's a mom thing. All moms love their boys because ideally they say moms, they see like their lovers in their boys sometimes. And sometimes it can get toxic like that.
Yeah,
that mommy
like
boy syndrome.
Some of them can be unhealthy. But they put those expectations on them as a man of the house. They put those expectations on their son, which is very hard to live up to when you're probably like 14 or 15. I remember dating some people and I wasn't used to the fact that they helped their mom out with money. Like, I wasn't used to that because I didn't like
of course.
that. I mean, my dad helped my grandma, sometimes like after, certain things, but not you being 18 and 20 and giving your mom money and things like that. Like, you were the one that was kind of helping her out. Like, basically, like, you're the next man. You're the man in the household. Yeah. So I had to see that too, and I didn't understand it.
I think it stems a problem when there's not a healthy boundary between that mother-son relationship. Children should leave the nest at one point.
Yes,
I don't think you should be living with your parents into your 30s. Like, no judgment if you are, because now we know inflation's kicking everybody ass. If you have to move back, it's different. But I do feel like mothers should have a healthy relationship with their sons where they allow them to step out, jump out of the nest and, fend for themselves. And they shouldn't be too intertwined into their interpersonal relationships with other people outside of them. You know what I'm saying? Because it hinders their growth too.
True.
And especially for single moms, I can only speak as a child of a single mom. I do think it's important that if you are a single parent, that the opposite sex, there should be a a mentor for your children of the opposite sex, whether that be a close trusted family member.
Yeah,
Trusted is the key word. Or even enroll them in programs, related to school where they can have that relationship with that opposite sex so they can learn, and just develop better. Because I also feel like kind of tiptoeing into that trusted thing too. Another toxic family dynamic is, especially in the Black community, they like to keep things hush hush,
yes,
and not talk about things.
I was gonna say that what happens in our house stays in our house, and sometimes that phrase itself is not. It's not beneficial sometimes because things can happen in your house that necessarily aren't right.
Yeah.
But because you're taught to not say anything, you hold it in and you hold it in. And then that cycle perpetuates itself over and over, and it trickles down to the next generation if you don't stop it.
Yeah. And there's all types of things like molestation, incest. You know what I'm saying? And that's a different episode when we talk about the slave times into now.
Yeah, that's it.
But I think about the kids who were stuck in their house for COVID in these toxic relationships, who are probably going through crazy things and didn't have an outlet to talk. And sometimes it's like you have that buried generational trauma. Well, my uncle used to touch me, and you either have a parent who's going to experience that and heal and try to protect their kids from that, or they just full on numb. They see it happening. They don't prepare. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, when I think about that, I just, I don't know. This is a tough subject for me to talk about that particular type of dynamic.
So on to the next question.
On to the next topic. All right. That one was heavy. Uncomfortable. Yeah. It is an uncomfortable topic.
I mean, that's what we're here for.
That's right. Number 3. Oh, we kind of touched on it this episode. Classism.
Oh, economic disparities.
Judgment. Uncomfortably Black. When I think of classism in the Black community, I feel like Black people use classism as a weapon against each other. And that's from me growing up in Wellington. I've encountered different Black people, right? Some of them didn't like me, like we said before, because of how I talk or whatever. And they thought I felt like I was better than them because I talk like the white kids, right? Or like I live in the neighborhoods with the white kids, or I have the house like the white kids, you know what I'm saying? Because there's plenty of us, it's like you had people who lived in Wellington, but it was mixed area. Like some people lived in Section 8, some people lived in townhouses, some people lived in apartments, some people lived in homes, some people lived in gated communities. It was a mix. But I feel like, especially when it comes to the Caribbean aspect too, because we're going to talk about y'all, when it comes to like in the Caribbean Black community, I feel like classism is a big thing because it's like in Creole, you say "Munde bien," the Haitians who have money, right? Or you have the Malay who are like the poor Haitians, or, the country folk. There's this like clear division. It's like, oh, well, I'm a Munde bien. Now, I've encountered a few people like that who felt like because, they speak French fluently, apart from Haiti, and they feel like they're better than them. They never even stepped foot in Lake Worth. They're the creme de la creme Haitians. And then I've met some Haitians who come from good families, who have buku money, like good families, good education, and who don't even act like that. They just treat you regular. They're just happy to see another Haitian. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, why is it that the Haitian culture, we're already fragmented across South Florida, but why can't we come together? And why can't we just uplift each other as first generation Haitians here in a particular area? You know what I'm saying?
But can we even say that that's a Caribbean thing? Because I think it goes back to what you said before. I think that Black people sometimes, and even it goes to that Jim Crow and that crabs in the barrel mentality of just when you feel like you're at a certain level.
Yeah.
Somebody that you feel may be beneath you, you are going to look down upon them. Some people do that. Like if they don't know where you come from, or they, like I said before, they'll think like, oh, okay, well, people from Belgrade and Pokey are this, and this. Yeah. But there are people who are from those areas who have good homes, who actually have generational wealth, who actually went to college. It's just the fact of getting to know people deeper than what the classism and social levels that you see.
Yeah.
So in our community, we do have that. It dates back to even when we were kids. Yeah. If you don't have the newest sneakers on,
Yep.
you're looked down upon. It's like, you got on Bobos right now? Like, you're looked down upon.
Hey, I was a Payless princess. Hello.
Not a Payless princess. Okay, shout out to them. So, Payless is done now, but, you know.
So sad.
But even then, people look down upon people for those little things. Any other way, I think this goes back to, I had a conversation with somebody about this. It was a conversation with Mark Rubin on The Breakfast Club. And he talked about, some people feel like this is, I'm going to preference this, that some people say this may be the wrong messenger.
Oh, right.
But the message, I do agree with the message on he didn't like the fact of seeing black people tear down other black people.
Yes.
And
I saw that interview.
Why do we continuously do that?
By the way, you guys are talking about Michael Rubin.
Thank you, Michael.
Sorry,
Rubin.
Michael Rubin.
What we said, Rubio?
Mark Rubin. I knew it started with an M. Okay.
Okay.
Michael Rubin, but
Okay.
you get my preference.
Like you said,
of what?
Like people were upset about Mike Rubin talking on The Breakfast Club, but the fact that he notices that from where he is, you know what I'm saying? And that he talked about it. And you know what? More people tuned in because he said it, because black people have been saying this for years. But, you know what I'm saying?
But my thing is, too, if a person of that stature, because he has a lot of money, he would be technically considered a high value man, if you want to go there.
Oh boy, can't wait for those episodes.
Saying those things about another the context of the conversation was about Lil Baby, who is a rapper, and to other people, rappers have money.
Yeah.
So for other black people to look down upon this man who, quote unquote, on a classism, if we go to classism, he probably has more money than some of the people that are actually talking trash about him.
Of course.
So from that, it's like, I feel like economically, it doesn't matter what you say. Like, it doesn't matter exactly how much money you have. People are going to talk regardless.
Yeah.
No matter what. And that was my point I was making with the Michael Rubin comment.
Right. But even with Michael Rubin, he touched on it. Like, that hate on hate, I feel like black people have more smoke for other black people than they have than their white counterparts or Spanish counterparts or Asian counterparts. Like, everybody. Like, they just have more smoke for us.
I think we put it out more openly than other races do. Because you very rarely, if you look at it, you don't see too many white people coming for white people in certain contexts, like how black people do. I will say that.
In such a manner.
And where it's like accepted and it's cool.
Yeah. You know, it makes me think about a friend I had. Whenever her and I would get into arguments, it'll be over something stupid, right? She would just comment publicly on like Facebook or MySpace or something like that, all caps, like, "Oh, you dirty black Haitian, blah, 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 fat, ugly." Mind you, this is somebody who says she's my sister, right? Whenever we have a little disagreement. So I'm like, in an instant, you'll flip out and like project all this hate towards me, specific things too, right? But when you fall out, and this is someone who falls out with people like every other day, but when you fall out with somebody else, and like whether that be an Indian person or a Spanish person or a white person, crickets, nothing. Oh, well, I was just upset. Oh, I'm like, oh, you're civil now, you can talk, right? So I'm like, what is it? Or I would see her beef with other black kids and she'd be belligerent like that. And at one point, I'm like, I had to step away, like, okay, it could be just me. But then when I saw her doing it to her other black friends, I'm like, there must be a comfort that she feels safe enough to really speak her true feelings and opinions.
Or true hatred, pretty much.
Essentially, yeah.
Because it feels
but I'm like, you're so comfortable to just spill out hate towards your own people versus embrace, versus your oppressors, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that happens all the time. Like when you're a person of color having a business and you're looking for an item, I feel like people will see their white counterpart, or I don't want to say white because it's not about white people, but like say somebody from a different race have the same type of business that, you know, a good friend or a family member has had for years, but you automatically want to go to them because you feel like they're going to have quality or they're going to be better. Yeah. And I'm like, they just started. They don't even know what the hell they're doing. But you know somebody who's been doing this for 10 years. Or then you go to the person you've been doing for 10 years and you want a discount off it. But you ain't asking Molly Sue for a discount on her new products.
And you're not complaining about the prices. I experienced this a lot with working for a Black business. Like we do, like I said, we do it to ourselves. I say this all the time. You will never go to another place. You'll never go to, let's just say, Red Lobster and complain about the prices.
Right.
But if it's a mom and pop Black and like, not even saying, I don't want to even say Black, but if you go to a mom and pop, you sometimes people feel like because it's not on that corporate status or whatever, they feel like they have the ability to come in and dictate or say things or say
customer's always right.
Yeah, say the customer's always right, or say that the prices are not good.
Right.
But you would never go to Abercrombie and Fitch and complain and be like, it's too expensive. You're going to buy Abercrombie and Fitch. Right. You're not going to go to Gucci and say, this is too expensive. You're going to make the money to go get Gucci.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too. The people who wear, and to talk about classism, too, where people like to wear designers. And that's like, they'll be dressed up in Gucci, Fendi, everything, but be renting their home or not have no furniture, no headboard. But I see you out in the club. Oh, I'm thinking about one particular person in person. You know what I'm saying?
I don't want to say it's a Black people thing, but I have seen people do that of where they will spend ridiculously amounts of money on materialistic items and you're still living in a place that is so downgraded.
Right. Can't even afford dental care.
You can't even flush your toilet and move the sink at the same time.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
It's crazy.
All to keep up with classism.
All to keep up with that. And when it's a facade,
yeah.
in a sense. When people who have true wealth, you will never know that they actually have true wealth.
No, they still shop at Target.
Yeah.
Like, I've met billionaires in New York. I've worked at high-end offices where I'm having celebrity clienteles. And literally, I'm like, dang, she got her shirt from Target because I just saw it last week. I'm like, yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's really sad, too, especially, coming from the times where Black people felt the need. And it's generational, too. Mm-hmm. Like, I really want to go into it when we specifically pick a niche and just to dig in deep with the facts. But, yeah. You want to do one more?
This is just the intro, guys.
It's just the intro.
I'm going to do one more.
One uncomfortably Black topic, and then we got to roll.
9.
Number 9.
What is 9? I'm scared.
Number 9 is inter-community violence, harm inflicted upon each other, such as gang violence. We talking about gang violence. What do we know about the gang?
I don't know much about gangs like that, except not too much. What I do know about violence in general, especially like we say, we talk about Black on Black crimes. It's a lot of times, I may get canceled for this one.
Cancel us.
But during COVID, the COVID area, I feel like police brutality was a big thing.
Right.
It was a lot of black crimes against the police. And I understand that I'm not going to say anybody's life is justified or taken is justified at any point in time. I don't believe in that at all. Mm-hmm. But I will say we would get so outraged by police brutality. But then when, let's say, Jimmy gets shot in a neighborhood by Tyrone, it's okay. We need to have the same outrage that we have for the police brutality as we do for Black on Black crimes.
Exactly.
And even when it comes down to our music, think about what we're feeding ourselves. Yep. What you speak, like your spirit is not only... Well, your spirit is internal, but certain things is not. It's what you ingest. It's what you see. It's what you read. It's what you hear. So if you're listening to violence in our music all the time, and I'm not going to lie, I do like rap music too. But if you look at our music, it's just killing, die, death.
Yeah.
Shot,
drugs.
Bang, bang. You a hoe.
Fuck them for money. Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
So if you're hearing that and you're constantly hearing that,
and you're seeing it.
What do you think that's going on? Even drill.
Yeah.
Drill is based on that. Even like these rappers in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys know them, but they have a song like the Vanessa Carlton song. Yeah. I think one of them is like Fulio. I don't know. I don't want to correct. I'll get it straight another day. But those people, the Vanessa Carlton, in that song, they're talking about who they've killed.
Whoa, I did not know that.
Yeah, although that who I smoke. And they say the name.
And we're just over here dancing to TikTok.
And we're just dancing to the song. It's like, who I smoke. Those are people literally that they...
Dry snitching on the mic.
That they've killed. And we're listening to this and we're ingesting it and kids are ingesting it.
Yeah.
And you're complaining about violence, but look at what they're ingesting. Look at what they're listening to. A song that's telling you who I smoke. And
Yeah.
it's saying that these kids are ultimately, all these people are dead. And like the Bible says, you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Right.
So I just feel like at this point, if we're going to be having justices about gangs and violence, period, it needs to be all across the board. Not just we're so harsh about police brutality. Every time we see something, we're upset about that. No,
we riot and break our own community.
And do our own communities. No, we need to have that same power that we have and upset and uproar. We need to have that for everybody.
Yeah. I'm like, the police department, no offense, is a gang, low key. In some places, it's for sure a gang. They're really out here doing whatever they want, killing people of color with no remorse, you know? So I'm like, if you're going to join any gang, join the police department. Low key. Oh, God, I like the cops, so I call you guys when I'm in trouble.
I mean,
but
I do like the cops, and I have some family members that are
cops.
cops. I just, like I said before,
It's
it's how you are as a person and what you stand for. Are you really taking that oath to protect and serve?
Yeah.
And really honor that?
Yeah.
Because some people get into, and I will always say this, power corrupts absolute power. Some people get into these positions and they feel that because I have the power, I can dictate what goes on and you can't do anything about it. So that really dictates to the cop itself.
Yeah.
But like I said before, and I don't even think it's cool at 20, like, to be 40 and be like, I'm in a gang.
Right.
I'm a Crip.
Right.
I'm a blood. Like, everybody in their rap, like, even look at the rappers now, they're like, well, I'm a blood, I'm a Crip, I'm a da-da-da-da-da.
I don't know.
It's uncool. I'm sorry, it's whack to me.
Very
because
much so.
You're at an elitist part of your life where you're not gangbang, you're not jumping to get in the game,
right.
you're not doing.
And a lot of these music artists don't even do this shit. It's just for the music.
It's just for the music, and they're feeding that to you guys or feeding that to this society to think like, oh, okay, this is.
But that's on
us
us too, because we listen.
Yeah, that's true.
These music heads, all they do is they look at the metrics, they look at the numbers. They're like, oh, these have high numbers. Let's do more. Let's get some sexy reds.
And they're taking people who, and like I said, to go back to gang violence, they're taking literal people who are in actual gangs and giving them contracts.
Yep.
And then putting that into the music and saying, I killed this drill. And then that's what they were doing before. Y'all better look at the YSL trials right now.
Okay.
Young Thug ain't sitting up there for nothing, allegedly. I'm going to be like, allegedly.
Hey. Well, thank you so much. I think this is a good wrap up for the first Uncomfortably Black episode with my favorite co-host, Leche Lux with the Big Bucks. Thank you guys for listening. If you have not already, please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Uncomfortably Black will be featured on the podcast at least one episode a month. We ain't got a date yet. Leeshell doesn't want to move to New York, so we're going to have to remote in, but you'll see her lovely face here along with me in the studio where we discuss uncomfortably Black topics. Okay?
I think Val said it all.
Yeah. So we're going to let you guys go and enjoy your Uncomfortably Black day.
Bye.